right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, the NFL edition of Unqualified Analysis. Boy, oh boy, do we have ourselves a packed Week 14. I'm really just buying time until Thursday because so much just happened in college football. Not a whole lot of surprises, but we learned a whole lot of stuff, and there's a whole lot of coaching headlines going on right now, and we'll be right in the midst of transfer portal madness when we talk on Thursday. But we'll put a pin in that for now, outside of reunited, and it feels so good. Scott Frost going back to UCF. Probably not going to work out as good as last time, but hey, sometimes you just need a little dose of nostalgia after a rough stretch, and that's where they're at right now. So you can't blame him. You can't blame him one little bit for that. However, I'm your host, Caleb. You can follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. It's right there in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. You can also find a link down in the description, so you can go on and go follow, do all that sort of good stuff. I tweet every once in a while. It's usually good stuff. Doesn't get a whole lot of traction, but it's usually good stuff. Outside of that, though, if you want to contact me, shoot me a DM or go to the email that is also in the description, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Outside of that, though, after I make sure everything's all right over here, well, yeah, that's just regular old fantasy football banter. I don't want to speak too soon, folks, but your boy might have a real chance at winning a couple leagues, and I've never won a league before. So, boys, we're in it right now. However, we've got Week 14 to talk about. Whole lot going on. Obviously, put a pin on Monday night until we talk on Thursday. But until then, let's just crack this bad boy open and talk about some NFL. So we'll start off on Thursday night. No super notable games in the in-between time, and this is probably the biggest one of the week, frankly, until the Sunday night game, which we'll talk about Sunday night. Tamba, Hali, if you saw the opening shot, you probably already know what I'm about to talk about at the end of the episode, but stay tuned for that. Just Tamba, Hali, that's all I got to say until we get to that one. But biggest game of the week, huge divisional implications in the NFC North. The Packers went on the road to face the Detroit Lions, and Detroit got themselves a win 34-31, an absolute banger of a football game. Josh Jacobs did everything in his power, 3 touchdowns, didn't have huge yardage numbers, but 3 touchdowns, absolute workhorse. Ultimately, though, I mean, Jared Goff with 3 touchdowns, 32 of 41, 283 yards. He probably should be getting more consideration for MVP, but his history probably, unfortunately, mars him forever in the eyes of the voters there, at least until he does this without Ben Johnson in the building. Yet to see if that'll happen, but put a pin in that until it happens, I suppose. As far as the Lions, though, they once again showed they're the best team in the entire NFL. This was a crazy football game, absolutely fun over. I mean, the second half, the Packers outscored the Lions 24-17. That was just the second half score. In the first half, I mean, the Lions jumped out to a 17-7 lead, but the second half, things got crazy, things got wild. It was a fun watch, and I come away not thinking badly about either of the teams in this matchup. I mean, by God, Jordan Love, they didn't really ask him to do a whole lot, but 10.3 yards per attempt, 206 yards on 20 attempts, that is, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, didn't turn the ball over at all. He was playing out of his mind. It's just he didn't get huge touchdown numbers because when he got Josh Jacobs and you're in the red zone, it would behoove you to just run it right down their throats. Crazy disparity in plays in this game. It looks like Green Bay had 44 plays between run and pass. And I guess 45, you count the 1 sack in there as well. If I'm counting this right, the Detroit Lions had 76 plays to the Packers' 45. Just insane stuff. They absolutely dominated the first half. Detroit probably should have been up like 24-7, if not even more, at the halftime. And Green Bay just got just enough stops to keep them in the game. Detroit, it looked like for a little bit that Detroit was going to pull away, and it never really happened. And this thing was a real banger down the stretch. It was a delight to watch. And hey, Detroit, they are who they are, man. They are 12-1 at this point. Big matchup coming up next week with the Bills, and for for your boys' sake as a Vikings fan, I'm kind of hoping they lose that game to the Bills, but that'll be an absolute dandy. We'll put a pin in that for now. No picks, by the way, today. Didn't do any research. I'll get you a full slate on Thursday, and we'll be good. It's okay. It's okay. No college football this weekend, so we got some run time before we get up to that point. But I just wanted to say no picks for today, but huge matchup for the Lions next week with the Bills, and I'm looking forward to it. I love what I'm seeing right now. I mean, even with the defense kind of playing down, they were still able to outscore Green Bay right till the very end, and had to hold them off at the end, but still, the way that offense is playing right now, they can beat anybody in the National Football League, and usually the defense won't play that bad. And maybe there's something to be said about worrying when it comes to good opponents or really solid quarterback opponents, how good this Detroit Lions defense will hold up based on this performance. But outside of that, I mean, they still won the damn game, and they came in clutch down the stretch, and that's the biggest thing, I would say. So love what I'm seeing from the Lions. They're the best team in the entire league. For the Packers, I don't feel any differently about them. They're probably going to end up being the 6th seed unless the Vikings kind of collapse down the stretch here. And I believe the Vikings play the Packers one more time down the stretch. So if the Vikings lose to the Lions and then lose to the Packers, might be in a little bit of a predicament there. Maybe they bump up to the 5 seed at that point. But the division is pretty much out of reach. They've lost. I don't think they play the Packers again. I think they lost both matchup, or the Lions again. Excuse me. Yeah, they don't play the Packers one more time. The Packers lost both matchups with the Lions this year, so it's over. They don't have a tiebreaker, and they're already 3 games back, so it's just not going to happen. I don't feel any differently about this team. They're as good as anyone in the NFC. The problem is they're in the NFC North, which is just absolutely stacked this year. And beyond that, if Jordan Love just gets hot, they can still make a run. They can go all the way to the Super Bowl, quite frankly. It's just that's what it's going to take. They're going to have to have a little bit of luck in order to go far, and really just a healthy helping of luck when it comes to Jordan Love getting hot when it comes crunch time at playoffs here. If they can get that, they can go basically anywhere they want to, though. I mean, the Lions are obviously the favorites, are the best team in the NFL, but there's a couple teams in the NFC right now. I think there's at least 3 outside of the Lions that I can think of right off the top of my head. I mean, between the Packers, the Vikings, and the Eagles, any 3 of those could make a run all the way to the Super Bowl and not name the Lions in the NFC. It's not wide open necessarily, but if anyone gets hot, they can make a run reasonably all the way to the Super Bowl. And Green Bay falls in that category. I'm pretty much sold on that. They're a really solid football team. They're going to make it to the postseason. It's just a matter of when they get there. Can Jordan Love get hot? We're going to find out, but he did it just last year. So I think it's possible that he does do that again. It's not just a foregone conclusion that the Lions are going to make it all the way to the Super Bowl. They have a very good chance of doing so, considering they're running away with home field advantage right now. Watch out for the Eagles, but we'll put a pin in that for now. There's a lot of teams that can still do it in the NFC that aren't the Lions. So I do think they're the best team in the NFL, but it's not a foregone conclusion. The Packers are still very much in this thing, despite this outcome. They only barely lost, too. So despite this outcome, I feel very good about the Green Bay Packers still at this moment. Okay, so let's move on to the Sunday games. We're just going to breeze through a couple because they're utterly meaningless. So first off, the Jacksonville Jaguars went on the road to the Titans. They won 10-6. Gross. I think no one outside of the fan bases of both of these teams watched this game, and that's probably a good thing because there's no this game should not be exposed to anyone, really just anyone. It's a public health hazard for them to expose anyone to this game. So I'm glad that probably no one had to see this, but that's all I really have to say about that one. Really doesn't matter for anything but draft position at this point. The Jets went on the road to the Dolphins, played an absolute banger. Aaron Rodgers had his first 300-yard game since 2021. Might be slightly cooked, but I think everyone already knew that at this point. Got him to overtime, though, but the first possession in overtime, Dolphins just go right down the field, don't give the ball back. They score a touchdown. Jonnu Smith gets the game winner. Dolphins are 6-7. They keep their playoff hopes very much alive. They are very much in the hunt in that AFC. If they can keep winning, they can find themselves in a 7 seed. Do they go far after that? Probably not. They have some endemic flaws that are going to keep them from going that far, I would say. But 6-7, you're still very much alive. The Jets, dumpster fire. Nothing else to say. Aaron Rodgers has got that documentary coming out on Netflix. Good for him, I suppose. Hope people enjoy that weirdo on their TV screens. I probably won't be watching that. It's been a real peaceful year, not really thinking about Aaron Rodgers at all. So I like that. I like that. I'm going to continue doing that at this point. So in the interest of that, next game we got here, Falcons go on the road to the Vikings, and they do not get off the schneid. The Vikings ran them off the football field. The Falcons defense looked hapless. I mean, sure, all the credit in the world, Darnell Mooney, 142 yards. You led the game in total yardage. That's great for you. I'm very happy you did that. Oh, there's where that podcast was. I was wondering when they would post that thing. But we all know who the true stars in this game were. It was 1, Jordan Addison with 8 receptions, 133 yards, 3 touchdowns. 2, Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then, of course, we had big boy Sammy Darnold, GQ bust. That is the God Emperor quarterback of the United States. Sam Darnold, 22 of 28, 347, 12.4 yards per attempt, 5, count them, 5 touchdowns, 0.0 interceptions in this game. No turnovers for the Vikings whatsoever. This was the best offensive performance that Kevin O'Connell has had since he came to Minnesota. They were getting everything they wanted. Sam Darnold looked like the very best version of Sam Darnold. This was the best game of his career pretty much by far. 347, 12.4 yards per attempt. You are slinging the football at that point. The Vikings are a legitimate football team. The defense really bowed up down the stretch in this one. They had some trouble in the first half. Really the first 3 quarters, but pitched a shutout in the fourth quarter, outscored them 21-0. That's just what good teams do. The Vikings are a legitimately solid football team. They've been in the lead in, basically every other division at this point. Eagles notwithstanding, they're in the NFC East, but they're a victim of being in the NFC North with the best team in the NFL right now. They are every bit as good as any of those other contenders in the NFC, though. The Vikings are a team that it's a little bit different than, say, the Packers, because Sam Darnold, yes, he can get hot. And if he does get hot, fantastic. It's a little bit more of a wild card chance, a little bit longer shot, a little bit more juice on those odds for Sam Darnold to do it as opposed to Jordan Love, though he has done it. You saw it in this game. When he is at his height, he is showing every bit of that talent that everyone saw, especially with the Jets when they took him number 3 overall back in, I think, what was that, the 2020 draft? 2019? Can't remember exactly which one it was, but you get it. He's been sensational at times. That being said, the Vikings defense is one of the best in the entire league. You can't run the ball on them. This game notwithstanding, they faced off against Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, and they did have themselves a day. I do want to point out, though, Jalen Redmond, undrafted, older rookie, I think he's about 25 years old, coming out of Oklahoma, undrafted rookie, getting a chance because of a lot of injuries on the front 7. Boys, we got another one here. We got ourselves another one in Jalen Redmond, defensive tackle. He was all over the damn field in this game. Jumped off the stat sheet, I think batted a couple passes in this one. Vikings had the most batted passes in a game since 2013. I think they had 4 total in this one when it was all said and done. Really, very good second half performance, very good fourth quarter performance from this Vikings defense. Hey, they're a legit football team right now. There's no other way to put it. They're a legit football team. I got to see what they got coming up. So they're at the Seahawks. Actually, no, they got the Bears this upcoming week, which is, it's going to be an adventure. Always is, but got them at home this time around, so I feel good about that. Then you're at the Seahawks, who are a red-hot football team right now. They just ran the Cardinals off the field. I think everything's really coming together over there for Mike McDonald, Ryan Grubb, and co. They are a really good football team, so that one's going to be tough. That one we might catch a loss. Then we got Green Bay at home. That's favorable. And then at the Lions in the final week of the regular season, which it depends on if they have anything to play for. They might not have anything to play for, which means the Vikings would, in all likelihood, get an easier win at that point, unless they are also locked up in the 5 seed, which is a possibility by that point as well. So something to look forward to. Might be a huge game in Week 18. Might get flexed to one of the night games, probably the last game of the week there, unless we got a play-in game essentially. So that's huge. Really, the last 4 weeks are critical for the Vikings. If they want a chance at the 1 seed, they're going to have to win every single one of those games because the Lions aren't going to slow down. The best shot that the Vikings have at this point is the Lions catching a loss versus the Bills this upcoming week, and then ultimately turning back around, winning all their remaining games on the schedule, and then beating the Lions in Week 18 to ultimately get the division. That's the path right there. If the Lions don't lose to the Bills, I don't see them losing another football game this year, quite frankly. So that's something to watch. I don't know what the tiebreaker would look like if the Vikings beat the Lions in Week 18. All things to consider, I'll grant you that, but they're in a really good spot right now. It's not a cakewalk down the stretch, but every single one of them is a winnable game because the Vikings are a legitimate football team. And hey, 1 seed's still not out of the question at this point. Still very much up in the air, and hey, I'm looking forward to this, man. I'm really looking forward to this home stretch. It's great to have the filth that is Mississippi State football washed from my conscience, at least Mississippi State football in 2024. It was a really bad year, folks. That's probably, that Mississippi State football team that I rooted for this year, this fall, is probably the worst team I've rooted for as a sports fan. I'm even talking like, what was it, the 2012, 2013 Vikings that went like 3-13, got the number 3 overall pick. I'd say this Mississippi State football team, worse than that. Just god-awful. Terrible, terrible season. But now that that's all washed away and I'm focusing on the Vikings, I'm horrified that Sam Darnold is my quarterback, but it's going well right now. It's really going well, and I'm gonna place entirely too much emotional value in how the Vikings perform down this home stretch. And hey, man, it's going to work out badly for me, and I already know that, but I'm ready to get hurt again. I'm scared, but I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready. And hey, Vikings are a legitimate football team. Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year. Give the man the trophy. He's an absolute stud, and that's all I have to say about that. Falcons, you are in trouble. Not a very good football team right now. Defense, terrible. Kirk Cousins, not playing well. Michael Penix, maybe on the horizon. That comes up with a very interesting and awkward contract situation with Kirk Cousins down the stretch here, because you still owe him every cent of his contract next year because of the contract he signed him to before he drafted Michael Penix. But with Michael Penix on the roster, you're still playing for a playoff spot. You'd be fools not to at least try trotting Michael Penix out there at this point, because especially, I don't know if they'll outright start Michael Penix this upcoming week, but if Kirk Cousins comes out the gate and just plays terrible again, like he did this past week and the week before, he's on a really tough stretch of bad football right now. If he comes out the gates and is not looking good, don't be shocked if you're in like the middle of the first quarter and the Falcons are making a QB change, or if they do it right before halftime or something along those lines. I think Kirk Cousins has a short leash right now because they drafted Michael Penix at number 8. Again, all hell's going to break loose if that does happen as far as from a front office perspective. But right now, you owe it to your team to at least try. See what the guy has in the tank right now. He's got an electric arm, which you can't say about Kirk Cousins. Never really could, but especially at this point in his career, he's not really zipping the ball necessarily. Why not see what Michael Penix has got out there? I happen to think that he would perform well in this offense with what's around him. Let's just see what the kid's got. That's all I'm asking. Let's just see what the kid's got. Another one we're just going to breeze past. Darren Rizzi gets another win. It's a disgusting win, but he gets a win 14-11 over the Giants. Someone flew a plane over the field pregame with an extra long banner that said, "Enough, Mr. Mara. Please end the dumpster fire," or please fix the dumpster fire. I don't know the exact wording, but yeah, that's where the Giants are at right now. The most pre-fired entire organization in the entire football league. Doug Peterson's the most pre-fired head coach right now, but we know Trent Baalke's not going anywhere because he's a snake oil salesman. That just, I don't know. Maybe he has like a weird cuck relationship with Shad Khan or something like that. I'm not going to speculate on that, although I just did. None of that confirmed, obviously. I'm just perplexed as to how Trent Baalke keeps that job. I know he's going to keep the job, though. So he's not pre-fired. The entire Giants organization is pre-fired. Brian Daboll's getting fired. Joe Shane's getting fired. This is going to be a full organizational reset after this year, and I think everyone sees it at this point. The worst part about it is this is a terrible year to have the number 1 overall pick. Honestly, though, I think the number 1 overall pick is the only one worth having if you're taking a quarterback, because there's really only one quarterback that's worth taking at that spot, and that's Cam Ward right now. If Shedeur Sanders had a clean record outside of his play, he would be a shoo-in number 1 overall pick because he's a little bit younger than Cam Ward, has a lot of those similar physical traits, and has just been carving teams up this year. But you still get the little press clippings every so often. You saw it a lot more when the team was bad. You're still seeing it pop up every now and again now that the team is good. Can you trust Shedeur Sanders in front of a microphone? That's a big thing. And I'm not saying it's the be-all, end-all. If some team looks at him with what they see on tape and say, to hell with all the baggage, we're taking him no matter what the price is there at number 1 overall. We don't care about the risks. Barring that uncertainty, it's really just Cam Ward at that top where you see the arm talent. You see spectacular throws that simply no one else in college football can make. He's got the livest arm in college football as far as I'm concerned. He looks, of the quarterbacks that I watched this year, all due respect to the other prospects out there, it's a bad draft. Cam Ward is a bright spot among those right now with what he's doing. Even with Shedeur Sanders, I think even, and trying to give Shedeur Sanders all his credit, because he is the second quarterback, I would say, in this draft, at least in my mind. He's the second quarterback in this draft. Even if you take out the off-the-field sort of baggage, for lack of a better word, for Shedeur Sanders, there's just something different about watching Cam Ward play. It's the arm talent. The arm talent is the main thing, and it's the thing that's going to jump off of the screen for a lot of these GMs. He makes throws that no one else in college football makes. He's got a crazy arm. He's wildly accurate. Got to cut down on some of the bonehead plays. He's a madman out there. He plays a lot like Brett Favre, a true gunslinger in every sense of the word. But he plays that way because insane arm arrogance, well-earned arm arrogance. He is a absolutely spectacular passer of the football. So, number 1 overall pick may be the only pick worth getting at this point, just because of the way it's all shaken out with the QB stuff. So, maybe you just keep this coaching staff around to just continue losing and make the vibes as bad as possible, so you just continue losing until you ultimately end up with that number 1 overall pick. I think they're either 1 or 2 right now. I don't know which one they are. It's either them or the Raiders just jockeying for worst team in the NFL at the moment. Ooh, excuse me, a little gas coming up there. It's just them jockeying right now for worst team in the NFL, but that was my little quarterback tangent. I don't know why I got so enamored with that point, but my brain just goes down rabbit holes and whoo, it's just going. It's going, tunneling to the center of the earth, so I apologize for that. Outside of that, though, for the Saints, Derek Carr, probably out for the season. He fractured his hand in this one. It's pretty much over. I don't know what they do with his contract in this upcoming year. I don't know what the guarantees look like. If I know Mickey Loomis, I know that he's put them in some sort of cap hell with that contract. That's just what he does. I don't know if Mickey Loomis keeps his job. This feels like a spot where it's a full organizational reset. It's time to stop kicking the can down the road and actually pay the piper, and that's going to hurt a whole lot. I've said for years now, whoever the poor son of a bitch is who takes over after Mickey Loomis is just going to have to write off the first 2 or 3 years because it's a dumpster fire. Absolute. You're probably having tied up like half your cap in just full-on dead cap space, essentially. You're just not getting that back unless you restructure the contracts and continue to kick the cans down the road. I think it would behoove the Saints to lean into the suck next year. I don't want them to hire someone that they're just going to throw away, but that feels like one of the spots where, You hire someone to maybe prove themselves. They don't have a snowball's chance in hell. You hire a GM that you hope to keep for 4 or 5 years at the very least. But you hire a head coach that you're probably just going to keep for 1 year and then move on from. Feels like one of those situations, and I hate that, but that's just the reality of the NFL. The Saints team's not going to win next year. They have no chance of winning. They should have traded more players at the deadline, and I think they're going to be very active this offseason in offloading some players just to get rid of some cap space, if nothing else. But it would behoove them to lean into the suck, because if they ever want to compete again, they're just going to have to lean into this and accrue draft capital and just lean into a full youth movement here with a brand new GM. I think that happens after the season. I don't know what the timing is on that. I think ownerships like to hold on to their GMs until after the draft, because bringing in a new GM, you're going to be setting yourself back for the first draft of the new GM there if they're just taking over for that 2025 draft. And really, the work is mostly done at this point. You just throw that all away if you fire the GM. So probably going to wait until after the draft, but I don't think Mickey Loomis comes back again with this team. It just doesn't feel like that's the way that they're going to go about this. And I don't feel like they're going to be huge players in free agency. And I don't think they should either. Unless they're signing some young guys that they expect to keep around for 4 or 5 years through the prime of their career, see them as cornerstones of the franchise for the next half decade. I don't see them being very active in free agency unless they're just signing minimum guys. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of urgency to get rid of them, but I don't think Mickey Loomis comes back next year. What's this breaking news I'm seeing? Heisman finalists. We got Dylan Gabriel, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, and Cam Ward. Cam Scadaboo did get snubbed, but we knew that was going to happen. It is what it is. He was kind of a late charger there. Hey, he's an animal, though. We're going to talk about him and much, much more on Thursday, but we'll put a pin in that for now. Okay, so we'll move on from there. The Panthers continue to be feisty. They cover another spread. They're on quite a winning streak against the spread here. But alas, they fall short. Eagles get the win in a bit of a nail-biter, 22-16. Saquon Barkley goes for 20 carries, 124 yards, but does not score a touchdown. That ultimately kept things closer. Jalen Hurts in this game, he scored 3 total touchdowns. You got to be happy about that. Rushed for another touchdown. He's just an absolute animal at the goal line. Selfish, but an absolute animal at the goal line. It's not his fault that QB sneak is the most unstoppable play in all of football. But 14 of 21, 108 yards, 5.1 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So credit there. Didn't turn the ball over at all. So there is that. But man, it's just not looking good right now with the passing game, and you're just seeing a lot of the stuff from Jalen Hurts that you saw in college, where he can turn it on every so often, but I don't know if he's ever going to be that consistent passer that you want him to be, and that's got to be a concern going into the playoffs. Now, the saving grace is your defense is spectacular, and your running back is the best in all the league right now. So you got that going for you, and that's a combination that has won Super Bowls from the very beginning of the league and still wins Super Bowls to this day. As long as you have a solid quarterback back there, which Jalen Hurts is, the Eagles still are very much in position to go on a Super Bowl run here. But you're hoping for a little bit more consistency. If you want the Eagles to play at the height of their abilities, Jalen Hurts has got to get better down the stretch here. And he's shown stretches of being hot. I don't think he's ever shown the heights that maybe Jordan Love has gotten to, even like a Jared Goff. I wouldn't even really say that passing-wise Jalen Hurts has ever gotten to that point. If he can be spectacular on the ground, though, I think that's the X factor, and I think that ultimately can propel him over the top. Eagles are a wagon right now. They've escaped in this one. That's all they had to do. All they had to do is win. Yes, you got the soundbite from A.J. Brown being a little bit ornery after the game because the passing game's not going great right now, but a win is a win. They're 11-2. Vibes are much better than last year. So, hey, very much in play for the 1 seed still. I mean, let's look at what they got down the stretch here. certainly not a cakewalk, but at least over these next 2 weeks, you got the Steelers at home, though, which is it's good. That's going to be a huge matchup. 425, very much earned that. Fox, I assume Tom Brady's going to be on that one. Tom Brady, Kevin Burkhardt, should be a dandy. Then you're at the Commanders. That should be a dandy as well, but you should be favored in that game, even though you are on the road. Then you get a soft landing down the stretch. You play the Cowboys and the Giants, both at home. That should be 2 wins right there. Could still very conceivably go 4-0 in that stretch and ultimately throw their hat in the ring for the 1 seed. I don't know what the tiebreaker would be for that 1 seed, but that's big. That's big right there. There's still 3 teams very much alive for that 1 seed in the Vikings, the Eagles, and the Lions, of course, being the front runner right now at that 12-1 mark. They're legit. There's nothing more to say about them. They're absolutely legit. We won't really know until they get into the playoffs how they do, but with the way they're built, I still feel better about them this year than I do, or retroactively do, with their Super Bowl run the last time they went in 2022. It was. So from there, I didn't want to click on Tyreek Hill, though he did get 10 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown. He's back now that Tua is back, so good for him. Outside of that, though, we'll keep it moving. Steelers got a win to get to 10 on the season. 10-3 is their record now. 27-14 over the Browns. I placed a little fuck it bet. Laid the juice, didn't care. I thought the Steelers were a much better team, and they had Mike Tomlin as the head coach. So I just laid 7 plus 100, cashed it. Got me some seed money for tonight. We'll see where I put that, but that was beautiful. Love to see that. Steelers just keep on chugging along, man. They are 10-3 now. George Pickens, I think he was held out of this game. He had a hamstring injury. Out of an abundance of caution, they decided to hold him out because they're a playoff team at this point. Nothing's clinched, but 10-3, they're well on their way, clinching 18 straight winning seasons for Mike Tomlin. That piece of shit. Love him, but god damn it, he coached for the Vikings at one point. He should have been our head coach, but we have Kevin O'Connell now. It's okay. It's okay, Caleb. It's all right. Pick your head up. Russell Wilson, not spectacular, but good enough. 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in this game. No turnovers whatsoever. You got the early turnover from Cordero Patterson. Made things look a little bit interesting, but ultimately the Steelers were just a better football team from go here. Alex Highsmith gets a sack. Cameron Hayward gets 2 sacks as well. Just chalk them up here. It was an absolute feast. TJ Watt got a tackle for loss. They got 7 tackles for loss as a team in this one. Just utter dominance. Steelers are, sneaky the best team in the AFC North. And it's not really sneaky because the Ravens keep trying to tell us. They keep trying to tell us that, yes, our offense is spectacular, but there's endemic flaws in our defense that are ultimately going to catch up with us. They keep trying to tell us over and over again, and we just refuse to listen because Lamar and that offense is so spectacular. The Steelers are 10-3. The Steelers are number 1 in the division. They're running away with this division right now. As it stands at this moment, they got a 3-game lead on Baltimore, and they've got a 2.5 game. Sorry, just a 2-game lead. Actually, I can't count. My apologies. They've given up far less points. They haven't scored quite as many, but given up far less points than the Ravens have. I apologize. My brain just farted all over myself there. This is the best team in the AFC North, and I think it's time we started treating them that way. I don't know how far they're going to get in the playoffs, but when you have this defense that they have, you wish you had better running back play. It is what it is at this point. It's a running game that you can trust to get you good, like tough yardage when you need it to. That's the main thing. They don't get huge yardage. They don't get big chunk plays for the most part, but they do get tough yards when you need them to. And if Russell Wilson just make a couple plays, you can win some rock fights, and all of a sudden you find yourself all the way in the AFC Championship, and no one's really sure how you got there. The Steelers have a puncher's chance. I don't consider them Super Bowl contenders necessarily, but they're the best team in the AFC North, and I think they have a puncher's chance in the same way that I think the Ravens have a puncher's chance. I don't see them as, big-time contenders right now because of the deficiencies on that defense. They got a puncher's chance, just like the Steelers down the stretch in this season. They're starting to round into form right now. This is one of the better teams that Mike Tomlin has had for quite some time, and I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, like I said, but hey, Mike Tomlin is just a magician. I think he's the best he's the best coach in the National Football League, and there's really not much debate about that anymore. Browns, you stink. Not much else to say about them other than they stink. The Buccaneers get a win over the Raiders, 28-13. They are now in sole possession of first place in the NFC South, and I think they're going to run away with that division. They're just the best team right now. They have that head-to-head loss with the Falcons that's going to kind of weigh on them. In fact, they have 2 head-to-head losses. They lost both games to the Falcons. The last one coming on that 4-game losing streak when they didn't have Mike Evans in the lineup, and they just faced an absolute gauntlet, including the Falcons during that stretch. But you look at this stretch run here. I mean, at the Chargers, that's going to be a tough one to win, but they have a good chance of doing it. They're every bit as good as the Chargers as a football team right now, and I think Vita Vea and that defense is going to give the Chargers fits in the running game, so they could win that one. Then you end off the season at the Cowboys. You got the Panthers at home, then you got the Saints. You're going to be favored in every single one of those games. Now, the Panthers were feisty. That's a game to watch there, but you should win each of your last 3 games. All you got to do, I mean, you get to 10-7 in this division. That'll probably win it for you. I think the Buccaneers get there, and I think they end up winning this division when it's all said and done. As far as the Raiders, they had Aiden O'Connell carted off. Looked like that was more of an abundance of caution. Looked a whole lot worse than it was. Looks like he's just got a bone bruise in his knee, so he should be fine in the long run. Might miss some time, but should be fine. They're a terrible football team. Brock Bowers, give him the goddamn Rookie of the Year. What are we doing? I don't care about Bo Nix, man. He's a quarterback. Good for him. He's improved a lot throughout the course of the season. I'd like to reiterate the point that I made several weeks ago. Brock Bowers is the best tight end in football right now. He had another insane catch in this one where he reached back behind him, got a one-handed grab. Ultimately, didn't finish with huge numbers, but 3 catches for 49 yards with terrible quarterback play. He had several targets from Desmond Ridder, and the other targets were coming from Aiden O'Connell, who was actually statistically playing worse than Desmond Ridder in this game. He's the best quarterback, not the best quarterback, he's the best tight end in all of football right now, and he's a rookie. I told y'all coming into this draft, the best tight end, or the best player in the entire draft, scratch tight end, he was the best tight end by far. The best player in the draft was Brock Bowers. He wasn't going to get drafted like it, but he was the best player in this last draft. What did I say, folks? What did I say? And it didn't take a rocket scientist to see that. I think everyone with a working set of eyes could see what Brock Bowers was coming in. It is a beautiful thing to see in action, though. My God, do right by this kid and just get a team around him, because we deserve to see Brock Bowers in prime time. He's a special, special player. Outside of that, though, we don't need to waste any more breath in the Raiders. They absolutely stink at the moment. So, in the interest of that, we'll move on. I swear to God, if you don't pause, I'm going to hit you. I'm actually not going to do that because I'd just be hitting my laptop, and that would be less than ideal, but you're on my shit list right now, ESPN.com. Big one here in the NFC West, and it might have just broken the seal on this division. Seahawks go on the road to the Cardinals, get a big-time win, 30-18. They dominated in this game. They're now number 1 in the division. They have a game lead over Los Angeles. I believe there's still one more head-to-head between those teams down the stretch. Last week of the regular season too, so that one might get the night slot treatment, because that one may ultimately be for the division in a night game where maybe the one who loses gets the 7 seed. There's no guarantee of that. I think that's a one bid. I think that's a one bid division. So that's going to be a huge one. But they're in the catbird seat right now, so to speak, and it's a good spot to be in for the Seahawks. And the Cardinals, this is one that you couldn't afford to lose. You had to win this game if you wanted to make the playoffs. I think the Cardinals are on the outside looking in at this point, and they're going to give themselves a shot if they win out down the stretch, and they have a chance to do that. And they have one more divisional game at the Rams where they can still make some noise. But you got to play the Patriots. Should be a win there. At the Panthers, not a guarantee whatsoever with the way the Panthers have been playing. They're going to steal one of these games in the coming weeks. It's just a matter of who they're going to catch. That's an interesting spot for the Cardinals right there, and I'm staying the hell away from that game unless they put a big spread in the Cardinals. In that case, I am taking the Panthers. But then you're at the Rams, another tough one, but that's a crucial matchup that you have got to win, especially if you win these next two. And then you finish off the season versus the 49ers, which by that point, who knows what the 49ers are going to look like. Never an easy out, but that's a game that you should win. Those final three games, I would say, I'm even lumping the Panthers in there because they've been playing legitimately good football and competitive football over these last several weeks. I've been very impressed with them. Those last three games are kind of a gauntlet for them, and I just think they're going to stumble somewhere along the way. I love the way that this Cardinals team is made up. They're still just a year away. There's still too many holes on that defense. I think next year, the Cardinals might be the very best team in that division. They're still a year away, though. And shout out to that entire organization. I think they're doing a great job with what this new regime is doing right now. But still a year away. I think what you've shown right now is great, but still a year away from really making some noise when it's all said and done. We move on from there, though. Rams got a huge win this past week that they were not expected to get. The Bills come into their stadium, and in a barn burner. Rams looked like they were going to run away with this going into the fourth quarter, but the Bills just charged back. Won in a barn burner, 44-42. Josh Allen became the first player in NFL history to pass for 3 touchdowns and rush for 3 touchdowns. I did have him on my fantasy team. My team scored 216 points this week, and one of my players scored 0. Think about that for just a second. It was a good week in fantasy, but I digress. Josh Allen did everything in his power. The Bills' defense let them down. The Rams had themselves a field day. Kyren Williams, again, not efficient on the ground, but another 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua went insane in this one with 162 yards and a touchdown. What did Matt Stafford do? I think he did pretty damn well in this game. 320 yards, 10.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. No turnovers at all in this game. Just a clean football game all around from both of those offenses. Just a clinic of offensive football in this game. And huge win for the Rams. This puts them right in contention for a playoff spot and just a game behind the Seahawks for that division lead. Still a lot to play for this season. They are still very much in play for a playoff spot. I don't think anyone needs to hear that. But this Rams team, it just confuses me. And we'll talk about the Bills' blunder down the stretch in just a second. Head-scratching decision from Joe Brady, from McDermott. The whole coaching staff, just head-scratching stuff. We'll talk about that in just a second. But this Rams team just confuses me, man. One week they'll look like the most hapless team in all of football, unable to score a damn point against a quality team. And then the next week they do this. They hang 44 on the Bills and beat one of the best teams in all of football. It doesn't make sense. The Bills seemingly have a problem with winning games on the road right now. I think all 3 of their losses have come on the road. They're 4-3 compared to the 6-0 that they're at home right now. So that's something you got to worry about, especially since, if the Chiefs keep winning, doesn't look like they're going to have the number 1 seed, but the Chiefs haven't looked spectacular. They could drop a game. Still very much in play. You got to worry about them down the stretch, but this Rams team, I'm just utterly confused about them. I don't know what team I'm getting on a weekly basis on either side of the ball, frankly. Some weeks the defense looks spectacular. Other weeks they just look hapless. Rams offense, same thing. Some weeks they look great. Other weeks they just look like they've never seen a football before in their entire life. They're a perplexing football team, but they're still very much in it for a playoff spot right now. They're so in contention, and they've still got huge games down the stretch. They still play the Cardinals. 3 of their final 4 games are in the division, so the way the Rams go down the stretch is kind of the way this division goes, I would say. So they're at the 49ers this coming week. Then they're at the Jets. Then they play the Cardinals and Seahawks to end off the year, both at home. That'll tell the tale. They play a bunch of divisional games down the stretch here. And if they go 3-0, they're likely looking at a division title. But if they just win 2 of 3, I think they still find themselves in a really good position, especially with that Jets game sandwiched in between. I think they probably end up winning that one. They've still got everything in front of them. That's the main thing to take away from this. They've still got everything in front of them. As far as the Bills, though, Sean McDermott, every so often, he just does something where you're like, what the hell are you thinking? And it happened in this game down the stretch with the Bills. Josh Allen just putting together another one of those drives that he did all game, just willing his team back to life. Takes them down the field right down to the goal line. They're at like the 1.5 yard line. They have 3 timeouts, like a minute left in the game. What you should do in that situation is just pass, try to get a touchdown that way so you can serve your timeout. So that way, when you score the touchdown, when you ideally score that touchdown, you can kick it deep and just hopefully your defense gets a 3 and out and you can get the ball back with like 30, 40 seconds left, something along those lines. You'd be sitting pretty at that point, especially with Josh Allen, 2-point game, go down for a game-winning field goal. That was all on the table for him. Instead, Joe Brady calls a tush-push QB sneak there at the 1 yard line, which if it works, you're still in a good situation. You're fine there. Unfortunately for them, high risk if it doesn't work, because then you have to spend a timeout, at which point you are forced to do an onside kick, which I think Tom Brady, by the way, put a pin in that. The Bills, perplexing decision-making from the coaching staff here, play calling wise, unnecessary risk at the goal line. You should have just thrown a pass, just thrown passes till you inevitably scored a touchdown, and then worked from there. Perplexing decision-making, which I think ultimately cost them a real chance at winning this game. The onside kick, it's a 3% chance. It's a nothing. You're not going to get it back unless you're the Bears against the Vikings last week. It's just not happening. So it's demoralizing. It is truly demoralizing. If you are a Bills fan, every once in a while, Sean McDermott just does this, and I don't know if that's the more endemic problem than what the Bills have been doing on the road this year, but it's something you got to worry about. And the Bills are legitimate championship contenders. Don't get me wrong. Josh Allen's playing the best football of his career, and he's played great football in the past. But man, there's just a couple things that pop up every now and again that you just nagging worries about. I think the AFC is weak enough this year to where I think they can get away with it, but it's going to pop up at some point. At some point, either bad situation or the Bills' defense is just going to get run off the field. Something's going to happen to where this is going to pop up again for them in the playoffs, and it's going to come down to how they respond. I don't know how they're going to respond to that situation. If Josh Allen has anything to say for it, though, it's going to be close in the end. So I'm not discounting them. I'm a little worried. Just little nagging worries for the Bills, the way that they've been playing right now. But put a pin in that. We'll move on to the next game here. We're getting right down to the home stretch. The Bears go on the road. Thought maybe there'd be an interim coach bump. None whatsoever. They went scoreless in the first half, 24-0 at halftime, and it was over from there. Niners get the win 38-13. Isaac Guerendo just plug and play in that Shanahan running scheme. He's the best one to do it. He learned it from his dad, who learned it from Bill Walsh, and so on and so forth. But he's the best in the NFL at it right now. It's just plug and play. No matter who the starter is there, he's a running back one in fantasy. He's going to put up huge numbers. Guerendo gets 2 touchdowns, leaves the game with a mild foot sprain, which ultimately on a short week might keep him out for this Thursday night game. I guess it's against the Rams here coming up. Something to watch out for if you're a Isaac Guerendo fantasy owner like myself. What a Faustian bargain I made for him to get me into the playoffs, but different story for different time. No one cares about your football or your fantasy team here, Caleb. But I mean, hey, that's just a story of the season here for the 49ers. Brock Purdy once again he's really acquitting himself nicely with hardly any help outside of Deebo Samuel at this point. He's just turning lemons into gourmet lemonade at this point. 20 of 25, 325, and 2 touchdowns in this game. They're so bereft due to injuries that it's ultimately not going to matter. They're not going to make the playoffs. But man, Brock Purdy's a really good quarterback, and he's going to be worth every single cent that they pay him when ultimately it is time to pay the piper, whether that's this offseason or next offseason or, hell, maybe even the offseason after that when it's all said and done. You gotta love what you're seeing from Brock Purdy this season, and he's earned himself a whole lot of money. Make no mistake about it. He's earned himself a whole lot of money this season. 49ers, it's got to feel good to get a win. It's good for the culture, but nothing really to write home about. The Bears, man, I feel bad for Caleb Williams. That's the main takeaway. I feel bad for Caleb Williams. I hope Ryan Poles gets the next. Man, I'm a Vikings fan, so I don't even really hope he gets the next head coaching search right. But man, I don't want Caleb Williams to end up being a bust. And if it takes the Bears being good and hiring a good head coach for that to happen, so be it. It is what it is. Caleb Williams deserves better than what he's getting right now, and what the Bears have offered quarterbacks for the entirety of their franchise history. So I just hope they do right by him. We'll see what happens this offseason, but I'm rooting for the kid. I think he's an emotional guy. He's Gen Z as fuck. There's no other way to put it. He's the most Gen Z quarterback of all the Gen Z quarterbacks at this point, and he's gotten some bad press for that, but ultimately he's a good kid. He's a competitive psycho, a little bit of an ego on him, but ultimately a good kid. I'll put it to you this way. I don't have nearly the quote-unquote character or media baggage, whatever you want to call it, that I would have for Shedeur Sanders. I don't have any of those problems with Caleb Williams because he is a franchise quarterback. Just do right by him. This is a Vikings fan saying this. Caleb Williams is a spectacular prospect, and you owe it to the entire NFL to do right by him. I hope they get this next head coaching search right. And I never thought that those words would come out of my mouth, but they owe it to the NFL to do right by this kid, and I hope they do it. I really hope they do it. I'm not convinced they will, unfortunately. Final game of the week. The Chiefs is the Chiefs. And before I get into this game, I teased it at the front of the show. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Tamba Hali. You saw him in the intro to the broadcast, banging the drum for the Chiefs. Obviously, kids, if you don't know who Tamba Hali is, go look him up. Go watch some YouTube videos, man. He was a very good pass rusher for a long time. Former franchise tagged player, I believe, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Spent like 9-10 years with the franchise. One of those guys, if he's not in the Ring of Honor already, he's going to be there at some point. Very good player. All the respect in the world to him. Not a Hall of Fame player, but a really, really good player who's got a place in Kansas City for the rest of his life. I say all that, though, to pay my respects. Tamba Hali has a haircut that I don't think has been seen by mankind to this point. If you haven't seen it to this point, I encourage you, go Google that shit right now. Pause the podcast, look up Tamba Hali haircut. It's going to come up almost immediately. I don't know what's going on there. Look, man, I don't want to describe it because the surprise is the best part. I'm not even joking right now. I am asking literally everyone that is watching or listening to this, if you haven't seen it, if you didn't notice it on the broadcast, yes, I'm talking to you, mother and father, madre y padre. Look that shit up right now. I don't know if you're going to find that as funny as I am or I do. It's a mesmerizing haircut. And look, man. Also, okay, let me give you a second to pause. Let me give you a second to look it up. I can give you a second to pause right here. Okay. Okay, now we're back. Now that you have seen Tamba Hali's haircut, I think we can all agree. Buddy, friend, even. I speak to you, coming to you as a humble friend here. And hey, this is don't shoot the messenger. Probably the wrong messenger for this message because I have a full and just luscious head of hair, and I hope I keep that for the rest of my life. And this is not to dunk on you, Mr. Hali. I really respect your work, and I really liked you as a player. I followed your career, maybe not closely, but I did follow your career. I'm a huge football junkie, been that way for a long time. I followed your career closely when you were in the league. However, the insurgency, I don't know where it started. On the forehead, at the center of the scalp, at the part there, I don't know where the insurgency started, but it's been going for a long time. the battle is lost, son. You've just lost too much territory to regain at this point. It's over. It's time to call it quits. It's time to make the best with what you got. It's time to deal with the new normal, and it is time to... it's not my place to say come home, because I think that is a phrase exclusively reserved for our fine, esteemed, follicularly challenged brethren out here. But it is time to come home, Tamba Hali. It's not working. It's not working. That's the type of head of hair that you wear a hat all the time, and you've lost so much ground. The insurgency has been so successful by the opposition that I don't even think the hat will cover up what's going on anymore. It's time, my friend. I don't know what happened to the move while you were in the NFL. I know at one point you went full bald in the NFL. You got a good bald head, man. Just it's sometimes you just got to know when to call a battle lost. It's time to withdraw the remainder of your forces and just deal with the fact that the battle is lost. It's not coming back, man. It's not coming back. That being said, we did have ourselves a good football game here on Monday night. First half, snooze fest. Really, really bad first half. Make no mistake about it. Not good at all. The Chiefs were up 13-0 in the first half. But all of a sudden, third quarter, Chargers storm all the way back. Justin Herbert makes some huge throws. They're up 14-13. Anything could happen here in the fourth quarter. We go all the way into that fourth quarter, and next thing you know, I am told by reliable sources who are familiar with the way that this game ended, that there was a little bit of fuckery down the stretch in this game. Little bit of Chiefs magic here going on. So the Chargers got a field goal with, now I've got to check the stats here. So with 4:35 left, the Chargers got a field goal to go ahead 17-16. I think I was awake momentarily during this point, but I was fully snoozing. I had to get the recap from some coworkers this morning. But ultimately, they get the go-ahead field goal. Chiefs then go on a 14-play, 47-yard drive, get just as far as they need to, and then with zeros on the clock, they kick the game-winning field goal. And not only do they kick the game-winning field goal, they doink that shit off one upright into the goal there. Field goal is good. Chiefs are 12-1. They are now 2 games ahead in the pursuit of the 1 seed in the AFC. They can't keep doing this, man. They just can't keep doing this. It's egregious. It's truly egregious. And credit to the Chargers. They did cover in this game. I thought they might, but such a close spread. I'm a big old pussy, so I didn't bet on it, essentially. That's the main gist of it. We'll probably be back on the Chargers bandwagon this upcoming week. Don't you worry. Though they are playing the Bucs, so might stay away from that, actually, come to think of it. But they can't keep getting away with this. This is how many games in a row the Chiefs are on, like a crazy losing streak against the spread right now. If you're just blindly betting against the Chiefs against the spread, you're making money hand over fist at the moment, because they've just looked so shaky. This is another game where, for all intents and purposes, they should have lost. And Patrick Mahomes didn't look good, but ultimately, what happens? He still doesn't turn the ball over. It doesn't look spectacular, but he throws a touchdown, doesn't turn the ball over, and that's all you need. You get a shit ton of field goals in this one. I believe the total here, if I'm looking at it correctly, is 4 field goals from a backup kicker, I want to say. Harrison Butker's not in right now. It's Matthew Wright that's kicking for him. I believe former Detroit Lions kicker. Shout out to him. And the main thing is, their defense is playing very, very well. I gotta see what they did in this game. They stymied the Chargers on the ground. Gus Edwards, 3.6 yards per carry, a touchdown in this one, a long of just 10 yards. The longest rush in general was Taylor Heineke with 12 yards in this one, which should tell you everything you need to know about the running backs in this game. But hey, Chiefs played well against the run, and Matthew Wright went 4 for 4. Matt Ariza seems to have put the pass behind him. And hey, always going to be totally unsure about that situation. Seems like he may have been hosed, but he's playing some great football, right? I think he's at like a 49-yard net average per punt. I think he probably leads the league in net this year, unless there's someone else up there like a Jack Fox or someone like that. He is just murdering footballs at the moment. And hey, with that defense, the special teams playing well, when you got that quarterback, the Chiefs is still the Chiefs, man. It's disgusting. I hate it. They're not really playing great on offense for the second straight year, which has got to worry you, but the Chiefs is still the Chiefs. They're 12-1 for a reason, and they've got that quarterback, and as long as they've got that quarterback, I can't count them out. I still think they're maybe not the best team in the AFC, but they're still probably my pick to go to the Super Bowl because they just feel inevitable at this point. Even with all the close games, they just feel inevitable. They're running away with the division as we speak, and I still, for the life of me, it somehow feels like the Chiefs are going to ultimately get the playoffs spot here. Well, they're going to get a playoff spot. They're ultimately going to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know how. I don't know what's going to happen, but it just feels like it's trending in that direction again. For the Chargers, this was a game that you thought, okay, it'd be cool to win, but ultimately you lost. It is what it is there. The focus now is you got your bye week coming up, right? So you go through this bye week, then you get the Broncos coming out. Now that's sorry, they don't have a bye week. I'm completely brain dead. They have a week coming up. I don't know why I didn't see the Bucs there. Completely scratch everything I just said. So they got the Bucs coming up. If they can get through these next two games, basically. So they got the Bucs and Broncos both at home. That's advantageous. And that Broncos game is a night game, so that should be an absolute dandy. They finish off the season 2 road games, but road games at the Patriots and at the Raiders. So if you just win one of either the Buccaneers or the Broncos, and then you take care of business in those last 2 games, finish this season 11-6, that's a playoff team right there. So you're still very much in line for it. The bottom line here, we'll see what happens when they get better receivers. They're trotting out the old faithful of Josh Palmer being the number 1 receiver for him because Ladd McConkey was hurt in this one. They're really probably a receiver away. If they just get 1 receiver, I think people will be shocked with how much better this passing game can be. I'm wondering how much is due to just the inherent limitations of the passing game in the Greg Roman offense, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Justin Herbert's still playing efficient, 70% completion percentage, 7.1 yards per attempt, no turnovers, still only 1 touchdown, but no turnovers in this game. So, well, how the fuck did I get all the way back here? Bring me back to the place that I belong, damn it. So yeah, that's still very much a playoff team. This was a game you covered. That's the main thing. You acquitted yourself nicely. Still some lingering doubts about the running game there, but hey, you're still in a good situation at this very moment. So nothing to be worried about as far as I'm concerned. With that, that is all for week 14 up until this point. I'm looking at this doink now. That's some real bullshit. That's some real absolute bullshit from the Chiefs. Only the Chiefs, man. Only the Chiefs. But that's it for now for Week 14. We'll circle back around to Monday Night Football on Thursday's episode. But with that said, let's take a look at next week's lines here. I'm sure there's some value out there. Hell, we might actually land on a pick or two whenever we look at this slate coming up here. But all right, so starting off on Thursday night, we got the Rams at the 49ers. Should be a dandy. Niners are favored by 2.5. I think that line's just about right. I don't know what Rams team I'm getting on a weekly basis, so that's a no from me on that front. Over-under is 48.5. Sneaky lean to the over, but probably staying away from that one. Seems like a player prop night on that particular game, so we'll stay away from that. Cowboys at the Panthers. Panthers are actually favored in this one. What a world we're living in where the Panthers are favored in a football game. Favored by 1.5, just depends where you go on that number. Looks like it's BetMGM and DraftKings that are going to get you to ones right now. If you want to bet on the Panthers, that's my lean. The Panthers are just playing some better football than the Cowboys right now, and honestly, I just think they're a better football team at the moment. So, lean to the Panthers at -1. I might circle back around to this game. I might reconsider, but for right now, it's a tentative no bet on this one. Over under 42.5. I like you, Panthers, but I don't like you enough to start betting overs in games that you're in. Maybe I'll feel differently about that, but right now I'm staying away from that at the moment. Chiefs are favored by 4 in most places against the Browns on the road. Lean to the Chiefs, but they're a wholly untrustworthy team against the spread. So if I had to bet, I'd probably bet the Browns at 4.5 over there at FanDuel and at ESPN Sportsbook. Over-under is 45.5. That's a lean to the under right there, fellers. I don't trust this Chiefs offense, and I think the Chiefs defense can give the Browns some fits. So that's a lean to the under on that one. I don't love betting unders, but that's as close to a bet as I would get on an under, quite frankly. Bengals are at the Titans. Bengals are favored by 5 in most places. Looks like you can still get a 4.5 over at FanDuel as of right now. Lean to the Bengals. They're much better on the road. It might be a bet ultimately, but I'm going to wait and see how that line movement plays out. Looks like it's moving in the Bengals' direction, but I don't know. We might circle back around to that. Over-under is 47.5. Sneaky lean to the over, but I don't trust that Titans offense. But another one. We might revisit. This might be an absolutely loaded card this week, but for right now, it's a bunch of maybes, but staying away from them for right now. So the Commanders are at the Saints. Commanders are favored by 7.5. Lean to the Saints at 7.5. I'm not man enough to bet that, but that's a lean to the Saints there on that. I like that hook. I like that hook for the Saints. Over-under is 43 in most places. You get a 43.5 over at FanDuel. Lean to the over, but I don't trust the Saints to hold up their end of the bargain on that. Jets are at the Jaguars. Jets are favored by 3.5 in most places. You get a couple threes. Look, man, just don't bet on this game. Just 2 wholly untrustworthy franchises. Don't bet on this game, okay? Just don't. Over-under is 40.5. Again, just don't bet. Don't bet. I would still lean the under at that. Not just bad football teams. Not betting on that game at all. Ravens are favored by either 14.5 or 15, depending on the book that you go to. I'd lean the Ravens. Their Giants are a terrible football team at the moment. Over-under is 43.5, and I'd actually lean the over because I think the Ravens might actually blow them out of the water. Just too big of a line for me to bet in the NFL. There's professional football players on both football teams, so staying away from it, but lean on the over at 43.5 there. The Steelers are at the Eagles, getting 5.5 over at FanDuel at the moment. Yep, I'm pulling the trigger. Yep. Steelers plus 5.5. That's a bet. We're adding that to the card. I'll make that official after this game, but that one's getting added plus 5.5. Unfortunately, it is at FanDuel, so I have to put more money into there. But it is what it is at this point. Football season will be over soon, so we'll be toning down our bets a little bit more substantially, I would imagine. But plus 5.5. Steelers lock that in. Mike Tomlin is that big of a road dog. Give it to me, baby. Just give it to me. I don't know if he's going to find a way to win. He'll find a way to keep it within 5.5. I feel very confidently in that, so I'm adding him plus 5.5. Love you, Mike. You're a gambler's dream. Mike Tomlin, what a guy. Outside of that, over-under's 43 in most places. You get a 43.5 over at FanDuel. Lean to the over. The more I think about it, I think that number's just about right. I'm not betting that. I guess sneaky lean to the under, actually, because I think if the Steelers can kind of stymie that Eagles running game just a little bit, like I'm not talking stopping Saquon Barkley, maybe you can hold him like 4.5 yards a carry, as opposed to like 6 or 5. I think you'd you'd be okay with that, and I think that would pay dividends for the Steelers, at least on the scoring defense end of things. That's really all it takes to keep the Steelers in this thing. And I also think the Eagles they're just a really good defense right now, and I think the Steelers have some flaws offensively, especially in the passing game, that I think Eagles can exploit. Especially with the Steelers' kind of dearth of weapons on the outside, I think the Eagles secondary is going to eat them alive in that category. So sneaky lean to the under, but we're taking the Steelers at +5.5, baby. We're rolling with the guys that got us to the position we're in. And Mike Tomlin, we love you, baby. We love you. Colts are on the road at the Broncos. Broncos favored by a pretty good mix of numbers here. You get anywhere from a 3.5 all the way up to a 4.5 over at FanDuel. Lean to the Broncos at 3.5. They're just a better football team. That might ultimately be one that I add later down the line, but it's a heavy lean to the Broncos right now. We'll reassess and reevaluate down the line on that one. Over under is 44.5. I think that number's just about right. Probably a lean to the over, but I think that number is just about right at this point. And we got a dandy, folks. 425 slot. The Lions are hosting the Bills. Lions favored by 1.5 in this game. I'm hoping, against all hope, that the Bills pull out a win in this game. Over-under is an astonishing, 54.5 over at ESPN. We're expecting fireworks in this game, folks, and I certainly hope so. That's the definition of a fun over right there. And I call it a fun over, one, because you're sweating it the whole game if they're scoring points, basically. But also, if they hit the over there, that's a fun football game. That's an absolute shootout if they hit that over. So that's why I call it a fun over. That's a real fun over. I'm not betting on it, at least not publicly, but that's a real fun over right there. Man, I'm hoping against all hope that the Bills come in here and do the Vikings a solid. This number looks like it's going to stay steady. So I have the luxury of revisiting this. I'm going to need to do some soul searching on how I want to approach this weekend. Because, man, I love the Lions in this spot. I love the Lions in this spot. And it is... No, I'm pulling the trigger. I can't contain myself on this one. The Lions a -1.5 point favorite against a Bills team that has consistently struggled on the road against good teams, especially. I love the Lions in this spot. Give me the Lions -1.5. I'm locking it in now. It's the second pick of the week. I thought about kicking that can down the road just because my interests as a football fan of the Vikings align in the opposite result, but my mind is telling me no, but my body is telling me yeah. So we're taking the Lions -1.5. We're locking that in. That might be my favorite pick, frankly, at this moment. I think the Lions are going to win that game, just based on the dynamics. It would have been different if the Bills were hosting this game, but I think the Lions win this game. If there's ever a time that I hope I lose a bet, it's this one. It's this one, and it probably means that I'm right. But boy, do I hope I'm wrong. That's the only way I'm going to put it. It's a weird bet, but we're here to win money, well, we're here to have fun and win money, but if push comes to shove, we're picking the win money option. That's the best way to put it. Buccaneers are on the road at the Chargers. Chargers are favored by 3s pretty much across the board. You can get 2.5s out there, but they're heavily juiced, like -120 juice, like not the kind of juice that you're hoping for on that number. So basically it's 3 right now that the Chargers are favored. It's a lean to the Chargers, but man, I wouldn't feel good about that lean, and I am not betting on this game. The Buccaneers are playing great football, and there's not really much of a home field advantage for the Los Angeles Chargers. It's going to be a majority Bucs fans in that stadium, I would imagine. So I think the Chargers are ultimately a better football team. But the more I think about it, I do kind of lean the Buccaneers, man. Just because I think this Buccaneers front seven matches up really well with what the Chargers want to do in the running game. I think the Buccaneers are going to stone them on the ground and have a real good shot of winning this game. It's going to be real close. I think it's going to be real close. I don't know if either team is going to run the ball particularly effectively, and I think this is going to be a low-scoring contest. The real play, and the one I'm really looking at here, is this over-under is set at 46.5. And, buddy, that under is looking like a snack right now. It's one that I'm probably going to revisit in the next episode, but 46.5, I thought this one would be down at like 42, 43. 46 kind of surprises me in this game. Maybe it's on the strength of what Justin Herbert's been doing. I don't know. I think these defenses match up pretty well with what these offenses want to do. I'm pretty heavily leaning on that under, and I'm not usually an under better, but I'll make an exception when I feel really good about a bet, and it bears some further evaluation. We'll table it for now, but I'm leaning very strongly on that 46.5 at the moment. Also, we got a snoozer here. Cardinals are hosting the Patriots. Cardinals favored by 6.5. If this were a week ago, I would bet the Cardinals with not a care in the world. But right now, I just don't trust the Cardinals. I think Drake May can make a run at them, especially with this Cardinals defense not really playing well at the moment. 6.5, it's tempting, but I gotta stay away. I don't think the Patriots will win this game, but I think they have a chance to keep it closer than that 6.5. They're not playing terrible football. Well, they're not playing good football at the moment. They're still a terrible football team, but they're not playing just god-awful, just week in, week out, soulless, unenjoyable football. They kind of are, but I don't trust the Cardinals, so I'm staying away from it. The lean is still to the Cardinals, but I'm staying away from it. Over-under is pretty good mix of 45.5 to 46.5. Just kind of shop around on that. I don't have a lean one way or the other. The Cardinals' defense is a wild card factor here, to where it's good for overs. So the lean would be to the over, but I don't necessarily trust the Patriots offense. I don't know. That's an intriguing one. I'm probably not going to bet it, but the lean is to the over on that one. The Packers play the Seahawks on Sunday nights. Packers favored by 3 on the road. I'm leaning the Seahawks in this one, man. They've been playing really inspired football over this winning streak that they've been on. They just killed the Cardinals for all intents and purposes this past week. You got a hell of a home field atmosphere in a raucous nighttime environment. I feel like the Seahawks have a really good chance of winning this one, getting to 9-5, which would pull them even record-wise with the Packers, and really put them in a big-time position to win this division down the stretch here. The Packers are so good, I don't want to bet against them in this spot, but the lean is to the Seahawks. The lean is to the Seahawks, and the lean is to the over at 46.5. It's basically only available at FanDuel, but the lean, that's the lean. 46.5, the best juice you're going to get on that is at FanDuel. Not betting that, but that will be the lean if I had one to give out. And then we have got, looks like, dual Monday night games for whatever reason. They just decide to do that every now and again, but whatever. Vikings are playing the Bears. Flip that around. Bears are on the road at the Vikings on Monday nights, and the Falcons are on the road at the Raiders, but start with the Bears at the Vikings. Vikings are favored by 6.5, 7. A heavy lean to the Vikings in this one. The Bears are just utterly hapless, but I'm not betting that because, 1, I watched the last game with my own 2 working eyes, and 2, just not betting on my own team. Can't do it. Can't bring myself to do it. Things get weird. Yeah, whatever. Things get weird in divisional matchups. I'm staying away from this. Over-under is anywhere from a 43.5 to a 44.5. Lean is to the over, but I don't know, man. You don't know what you're going to get from Sam Darnold week in, week out, and same can be said about Caleb Williams. He was spectacular in the previous matchup, but who's to say in a road environment that is still the case? So all around, staying away from it, but lean to the Vikings at 6.5 for sure. If I had to give out a pick, it would be that one. And of course, the Falcons are at the Raiders. Just a god-awful football game here. Falcons are favored by 4 in most places, and it's pretty much 4.5 in most places. You can get a 4, but it's a -20 over at -120 rather over at BetMGM. So for all intents and purposes, it's 4.5 across the board. The Falcons are a wholly untrustworthy team, and the Raiders are the Raiders. So I'm staying the hell away from that. Over under. It's pretty much 44 in most places. You can get a 45.5 if you're looking to bet the under in a couple different places, but the lean will be to the over just because the Falcons' defense more than anything, but don't bet on this football game. This is a god-awful slate on Monday night, man. I mean, basically, they just did the old fantasy football trade where it's like, I'll trade you 2 kind of mid players, mid to very bad players for 1 solid player, except for we're the recipient of that trade. So somewhere along the lines, Monday Night Football must have traded out a really good game for 2 kind of stinkers here on Monday night, but is what it is there. We added 2 picks, though. Steelers plus 5.5 versus the Eagles on the road. Road dog there. Love Mike Tomlin in that spot. And then the Lions -1.5. I hope I'm wrong, but that's the one I feel best about of the 2 that I picked up today. Outside of that, though, what are we running as far as time? 1:20? Yeah, let's cut it off here. Thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. This has been the NFL edition. We'll hit on Monday Night Football on Thursday. As always, though, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe, rate, share it with 50,000 of your friends, give or take. Keep this thing growing, and we'll be well on our way to success, happiness, all around good stuff if you keep on doing that. I don't see evidence that you're doing it. So we want to see a little bit more participation from the class here, but keep on doing that, and we'll be just right as rain. Outside of that, follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. That's down in the description. Also, bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you want to contact me, shoot me a DM. Probably going to just respond better there, or you can shoot me an email. unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com is the email if you want to go that route. We do this thing twice a week. NFL on Tuesdays, college football on Thursdays. With that, though, thank you all so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. Just want to make sure one more time I didn't forget anything. Didn't forget anything. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got no clue what I am talking about. However, one thing that I learned this week, and I can't remember if I stated this on the previous episode or not, so I'm just going to state it here. Zillow estimates the value of the White House at $353.6 million. So, not on the market for what it's worth, but Zillow estimates the value of the White House at that astronomical number. So, that was just a little fun fact, a true fun fact in every sense of the word. I'm going to go edit this. Looks like I'm going to actually be able to watch the whole Monday night game, so that's pretty cool. I will talk to y'all on Thursday, and boy, is there a lot to cover. So, going to cut it off here. Talk to you then. Until then, enjoy the football, folks. You already enjoyed it. That was a weird thing to say. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye.